Hello everyone, welcome to the third part of the making of trim sheet in Blender. So I have shown you or made you familiarize with the process using Creative Flow and Greeble Bake. So right now we're going to create a true trim sheet with multiple parts that you can use to detail your model, meaning that you can use the UV island to capture a part of the trim sheet and that will have a specific detail on that part. So you can divide your trim sheet like this in multiple parts or in a horizontal manner, and then on vertical, or you can do like something like this. So there are a lot of ways to do it. And so for example, this part could contain a lot of tiny details, and then this part could have array, and then this part could have asymmetry, but still asymmetry inside, but still it can be arrayed using this space here. So we're going to do that, and we're going to try and use the Boolean aspect in Creative Flow. I've shown you the drawing, and I'm going to show you the Boolean. There's also another way, which is the add intersect object, and it's also equally powerful, but that will be for mostly for another video. Okay, so we're not going to use a plane for this because we're using Boolean, so we're just going to create a mostly like a plane, but it has thickness to it, just to make sure that the Boolean works correctly most of the time. Okay, so I'm going to show you also for the a trick for the mirroring using the add intersect object. So for this, we're just gonna go simple and create details that are going horizontal and in 4 sections. And we're going to delineate this or create this operation for this areas using bevel. Maybe we can bevel there we go. Okay. And then create a center line for the middle parts, and I want this to actually, let's just delete this and use the F2 add-on to create that. So it's level, this point is level to this point here. So I can either use this part without these valleys here, so capture the detail using this, or capture the detail using this part here with the valleys, with the delineation line. So I just made that term up, but I think it's right. So make sure to turn on the F2 hotkey and the loop tools. Not F2 hotkey. The F2 add-on and the loop tools add-on, because they're the most powerful in Blender in terms of just modeling in edit mode. Okay, so mirror this in the y-axis as well. Okay, where is the mirror? Okay, there we go. Okay, then we're ready to create our detail. But first, let's create this part here, and we're just going to add like some random stuff just to demonstrate the process. And there are of course a lot of trim sheet videos out there, and basically they demonstrate the same process. It's basically creating In a square UV map, I think UV maps are mostly squares. So you pack all those different details here. So it can be for buildings and also hard surface stuff, but mostly inorganic and artificial. It really works for that. Inorganic or artificial, not inorganic and artificial. It can be both. Okay. So, but I want symmetry here. Okay. So when I draw something like this here, I want it to mirror here, but uh, with creative flow, it will only copy the center origin point of the work object. And when I draw something like here, this will be copied on this part here. So there's a trick to this. Click here and or click this symmetry line edge and add intersect object cube, scale it down, and the intersect objects will by default inherit the origin point of our work object. So we're going to make this object have its origin point in its geometry. So now when we rotate it, it's in the center or the average position of its vertices. So when you scale this, you select all the faces and scale down, because if you go like this or this, it probably won't work correctly. So selecting this, instead of selecting this object here and drawing, we're going to select this instead and draw the object. And instead of using the draw faces to directly use the boolean inside the drawing, so 1 for difference and B to deactivate, 2 for union, 3 to intersect, 4 for slice. So we're not going to use this, but instead we're just going to draw the faces and then use the boolean command right here, because the boolean, when drawing and using the boolean function operates on the source object, but this will not be our source object or work object. This will be our source object for the symmetry. Okay. Click on this and let's draw our faces here. X and Z, and that's Z, Y. There we go. And because this is center, this cube is center on this faces here. It's working nice. Yay. So our whole symmetry, the faces would actually, our whole, if this will be arrayed, our symmetry point is here and here, not here. Okay. So selecting these faces and our work, or this object and our work mesh, boolean, hat, okay. And probably to make the details pop out, because in the last videos I've told you that you need to kind of inset to make the baking process see these details, because without those it will only see this without cavity and outline. It can't see the detail if it's just being extruded straight up or down. So you need to either bevel or inset with some margin, cavity, outline. So we're going to create or add a bevel to our work mesh, but just a little. Use bevel and harden normals. There we go. And if we turn off cavity, and outline, you can see that the details are um, obvious and can be seen or visible. So without the bevel, and the normal baking will not see those details. You can see this line here can be seen because of the center line, but if it's just being extruded uh, down or up without any margin or offset, then the baking cannot see that. Whereas you have bevel or some offset margin when you're doing the inset or extrusion, you can see this detail right here. Okay, so instead of inset, we're just going to use the uh, bevel. Okay, let's add some more. Actually, I'm going to use Madcap and this dude. Oh, not that one. Just this one. No difference. Okay, maybe this one. And turn on cavity and outline. Okay, now I can draw some more stuff. But we'll need to use this as the origin for the symmetry. So draw faces, and still not sure if this will bake correctly, but you know, we need to try. Okay. This time I'm going to use intersect or slice. There we go. That's the old way of creating those split edge cut details using this kind of uh, Boolean technique. Okay, and then selecting this object again. It's probably bevel this like that, and probably there we go. And selecting our work mesh or the mesh. If this detail is inside here, you need to pick this result of the slice operation. But in this case, since this is inside the source object, we're going to pick the source object. Click, click, and Boolean object, slice again. Okay. So in order to make the, you can just adjust you just click on the work mesh, and then the slice object is actually a different object, so you need to select it as well. And then, or maybe we can leave the bevel because the micro bevel can work on multiple objects. But in this case, I think we're just going to adjust the slice object to make it, there we go. And then here, I'm going to select the slice object and modify its corner vert in this area. There we go. And we can try and turn off cavity and outline. There we go. So this is what the bake or the bake object will, not the bake object, the baking, the baking, oh my God, the baking engine or yeah, will see and bake. Gravity. Now let's select our pivot point again and draw our faces. And then select our work mesh, and Boolean. This time we're going to cut, probably bevel this. There we go. Draw faces, shift F4, shift 4, not F4, for array. Then click on our work mesh, Boolean objects, and cut. It's probably too big. Let's click on our, you can of course switch the preview in wire or bounds. Okay, let's just use bounds to make it more obvious. Okay, go to individual origins and scale them down. Set this to median point because of the Greeble Bake error. Okay, now we're done with this upper part. Then we're going to go here and use our pivot point object. Okay, cursor to selected, and then selection to cursor, keep offset. Okay, so in this area, I'm thinking of creating a pipe. You know what? I think we should have just done 3 layers instead of 4 because of time constraints. But anyway, we're here, so let's just do it. Yep. Draw faces number 4 for the strips, and then probably toggle off the y-axis and just symmetrize it in the, what do you call it, x-axis. Use the use the AD hotkey to increase the bevel, those parts, and control mouse drag for the depth, Alt for the offset, T to reset. So it's all in there, written in the UI helper, the values for the parameters and the way to activate them. Okay. Now I'm going to duplicate this object and hide it. And then here, I'm going to use this 2D work mesh as a Boolean object, and then cut, and then unhide, and then use this as our curve object. The edges to curve, and let's just adjust its depth or thickness. Get rid of the object of ours or our source object. There we go. So we created some sort of canal or margin. Okay. And then that's it. So probably push this a bit like that, and I'm going to model something on this pipe. So I'm going to turn it into a real geometry, apply mesh. If you don't have creative flow for that, you can just convert to use the W hotkey and use the convert to mesh. I'm going to establish the mirror. X. There you go. So I can model some stuff to the pipe. Again, offset, when you inset, create a bit of margin for the baking process to see it. There we go. And here, I want to at least like create a bevel for this line here, but I can't touch this geometry because it is a virtual geometry that is being produced using the Boolean process. So I think there's a way to apply this without applying. I don't want to apply this, guys. Here, this Boolean, guys. Okay, so probably wait. Hide show. Okay, hide show F9. No, there's no parameters for that. Hide show clear non-overlapping. What is this? So I've forgotten some of this. Select Boolean objects. Select Boolean objects. Oh, Boolean objects that is particular to that source object. Apply Boolean objects. Apply remove visible Boolean modifiers in selected. What? Okay, there's no way to actually apply this using visibility. So we're gonna withhold on that. I am going to apply this. They're not going to stay modular, but seeing that I'm not really sure on applying this Boolean objects up here, I'm just gonna delay on creating those bevel details on this part here of late in the game where I am sure that I'm going to actually apply the Boolean modifier on this part. Row faces. And selecting the source mesh after. Boolean objects and slice. So that created some distortion, geometric distortion. So we're probably gonna avoid the hole in the middle. But 9 slice. Okay, and selecting our pivot point again. Row faces. The only problem with this is that, oh, I think I just need to use the line if this fails. Okay, let's just use the strips. Number 4. Set thickness to something like this. You can still use the draw modifiers operator to adjust the thickness of the object after. Then selecting our work mesh again, blade object cut. Okay, it doesn't look. So if you don't like the look, just remove the blade object, and you can, oops, remove the blade object and then just delete the object after. Okay, probably something less. Blade object slice. I'm going to adjust their bevel. Oh no, that one. The result of the slice operation itself. There we go, not the Boolean object. Okay. Mm, F4, then shift 2. So I'm selecting this. Okay, select the our pivot point. And actually, select the what you call this plane object, and then I'm going to create an intersect object here, which is going to be another pivot point. Then convert set origin to geometry, and this use this as the mirror for this area here. So I can do this, mirror in the y-axis. There you go. And then click this, and the result of not this, but the result of the slice operation, this object here. So click the Boolean object on our slice object, and that, okay. So this is our pivot point. We're just going to leave it there just in case we the only problem is it didn't mirror onto this side. So what we're going to do is apply our Boolean object, apply mesh, and then W set its origin to the 3D cursor right here, and then reestablish the mirror on the x-axis. There we go. So just some really odd way of creating symmetry for a particular area of the model. Okay, so this is our trim sheet detail on this part and this part here. And on this part, let's just add these details or these edges, and then use array. So I'm going to show you a bit of the power of the intersect, add intersect. So this is just another way of doing details. So for example, this one, and trying to make a hole in this area. Okay, intersect, save mesh, get this over to that side, then select these faces, and intersect clone faces using the vert selection. Um, See what happened. Intersect, add intersect objects. Save mesh. Clone faces. It's not working the way it should work. Save and clone. Why is it cloning that and that? It should only clone on the, oh, not the vert. That's why it's the edge. So these are positions. So not in the position of verts, but the edges. Got it. Just intersect clone and in the edges, and then selecting our clone faces. Select our work mesh, and then intersect faces, draw. Then we can just inset press B to avoid the faces in the symmetry line. Do that. Okay, another one here. Add intersect object cube, and save mesh. Select these edges as the position, and clone faces using edge position. And then just intersects and draw. So never mind this part here. So we're just dealing with design, and we're not particularly concerned with topology, something like that. And then it's this bit here. So we need to just reposition this to avoid the, there we go, shading error with this part. And then uh, selecting these edges again here, I'm going to create another cube. Divide this into two, delete this. Save mesh. And selecting this edges here as a way to place them after. Clone, oh, save mesh. And then clone faces, edges. Mm, intersect faces, draw. And then we could just probably go down as well. Insert like that. Okay. So that's our third column. I'm not gonna probably complicate it because I'm trying to save time. So for this area right here, we're just going to create a simple array. Like that. But I don't want this of inset margin here because this will break the symmetry in this part. So what we're going to do is instead extrude it up, then scale it on the y-axis, but using the individual origins. There we go. Okay. So the only thing left is, of course, to bake the details. And let's get rid of our auxiliary objects, like the pivot point. I'll probably just keep it on the side. And then apply our Boolean, our work mesh. So just select everything here, and the script will do the work. Boolean, apply Boolean modifiers. We have all that. I'm going to create a plane here. What's that will be our zero displacement. Selecting this object, first it's selected, and then plane, then our plane object. What's the lowest points? This one here. So that's perfectly placed. Okay, and then we're going to rename this plane as our bake origin. Not bake origin, bake origin. And select everything. Make sure that everything's a mesh. And also make sure that the pivot point is in median point to avoid the Greeble Bake error. And go to images. And let's go to Greeble Bake to set stuff. We're just going to use normal as an initial test. And origin point is origin point of our selected bake origin, which in this case is our bake origin in selection. The bake origin drop down menu here shows you the object selected. So in this case, our bake origin is our bake origin object. And bake to last images, make sure pack images is on. And in the map, I'm just going to use 1024 by 1024. Okay, let's test this and see what we got. We get bake. Okay, and this is our normal. So we have trim sheet section. That's okay. And this part here, and this part here, and this part here. So in this case, you would use this part as the entire section. So there's no division in the middle. So you would need to use this part. So we chose this layout because of, for the to save time on the video. But of course, as I've said, you can create horizontal and vertical layers and sections of those areas as another set of vertical and horizontal separation. And in those split areas, you can model your details as different section of the trim sheet detail. Okay. So let's use AO, bake AO, and yeah, just normal and AO at this time. And for the texturing, I leave that to you. You can texture this. Blender has a lot of those PBR shader add-ons. You can use this for this one. And also try and avoid using the grand shader from the last videos that I did. It doesn't work well with symmetry or array because of the way that the textures are generated. So for the trim sheets, use seamless textures. Okay, So if you array the details, the textures won't break on the edges where the symmetry is supposed to connect. Okay. And for the displacement, let's just bake the displacement. So just these three, what do you call this? Maps. Okay. And bake. Okay, let's bake. Bake, normal, AO, and displacement. I think the one that is longest to bake is AO. So this is displacement, and this is AO. We so dark on the pipe. Okay, and let's create a material for that. New oh no, save it, save the file, control T. For diffuse, let's just use AO as a mix for the color mix color. So mix color. So the A is where your texture is supposed to go, and then set our normal map. Use the normal map node and set our displacement. Right here, the displacement, and vector. I use the displacement and set this to the height, and we're just going to use 0 a scale for now. And in the materials, in order for the displacement to work, set the displacement to displacement only in the settings. Okay, so this is our trim sheet. So again, if you like the displacement detail, you need to use subdivision. And let's try this part here. So and let's use another angle for the HRI. Okay, and go to UVs and UV. So mark theme, and then wrap. So go to UVs here. So I'm not seeing the UVs. Yo, unwrap. I'm in the UV editor, but now I can't see the UVs. Is awesome. My dear Blender, are you doing this to me? I can't see the UV map. Alt H or Alt Z? Oh, the Alt Shift Z. It's the overlay. Oh my god. So let's use this face here, and so this is how you're supposed to do it with the trim sheet. There we go. Just use the trim sheet to paint the detail using the UV map. Okay, let's use the top corner. I think you need some other add-on to make this easier, to make the placement easier. But this is basically the idea of the trim sheet. For the texturing, I just leave that to you. I will leave it to you. So I have demonstrated the process of texturing in the past, in the earlier videos in 1 and 2, but that is only using the materials in Creative Flow, and it's pretty basic. So if you want more accurate stuff, you can use the, like I said, there are a lot of PVR, uh, PVR based shader add-ons that in Blender that automates the process of adding those materials. Okay, so and then we can, of course, array this, array, array. There you go. So that's the idea of trim sheets. Make this stuff faster. There you go. And we could try displacement. So there's still, yeah, is there a line in the middle? Merge. Okay, I don't know what's doing there. Did we have a line in the, I think we didn't, the bevel. We should have, there's this is the result of the bevel in the edges of the work mesh. There's a bevel. Because we used bevel, there's bevel here and created the symmetry line or the split in the array. So to avoid this, you need to use the vertex group method in the beveling and just disregard uh, these parts here or in the borders where you want the symmetry to actually be merged without any separation line like this. But of course, that's already hindsight for us in this video, so we're just going to uh, um, not repeat that. Actually, I'm going to rotate this. There we go. Do that. And displacement is with the increased resolution. So let's go to shader and add a subdivision to this and use simple. Let's add this before the array. Turn off optimal display so we can see what's happening with the resolution. And then here we can increase the scale to something like 0.5. We need to get this in line with the original position. So we're going to, there we go. Adjust the mid-level. Press shift when you're adjusting this to slow down the increments. So shift and then mouse drag. And to really control the values more accurately, you need to manually enter the values. So this has a soft cut of 6, so dragging this beyond 6 is not possible. You need to manually enter the values and then adjust accordingly. There we go. So 9 is our most, 9 or 8. And let's just shade smooth this. So this is subdivision level 9, but you can go something lower like 8 probably. Okay. No, there's the jagged edges. So yeah. So if this is closer uh to the subject of your render, you need to you want more detail, then use displacement. Otherwise, if it's farther away, just use the normal map. Okay, so this is our true trim sheet. So in the two videos, so I figured I'd just simplify the process and make just one pattern. But of course, when we're talking trim sheets, we're talking like multiple details in a single UV map where you can just use the faces to position them in a particular area of those trim sheet and achieve the detail in those, get the details in those areas like we did here. Okay. I think we can set the trim cursor here and then set the median point to the trim cursor and duplicate this and then Control M and then middle mouse click and duplicate on the other side. Let's see if this works. There we go. And there's the line in the middle, but this is a way you can uh, mirror the objects. What's the command called? Control M. There's no Control M, and then you can just do that. So there's a lot of, you can also do that as well. Okay, so that's it for this video. And if you have any questions, use the comment section below or the links in the description. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.